So, few days back while checking Twitter, I saw Helluva Boss episode 4 teaser and thought, oh, that's nice, I hope it's better than episode 3. So I commented something like that and teased ranking video of season 1 when it eventually ends, cause I have some stuff to say about the series. Then, Mr. Geek Regular said episode 3 is super fun and asked what's my problem with it. I said writing was bad, jokes were decent at best, and it was way too horny. So yeah, I said it's too horny, and while most people might be okay with it, I really wasn't, and it probably isn't a good influence on teens, since, let's face it, the show is made primarily for 14-18 age demographic. Oh. Fuck. So, until this point I heavily believed that the show is primarily made for teens and 18 plus is a legal cover. At least I thought so. To prove that it in fact is made for teens and just legally covered under age restriction, I wanted to compare it to 3 other adult animated shows. That being BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty and South Park, since those 3 have different animation styles, themes, comedy taste and all that jazz. South Park was the only one out of 3 I never watched, so I looked up list of best episodes, then also watched some random ones and ended up watching around 10 episodes from different seasons. And oh my god, it made me realize how wrong I was about with the cover. Because South Park is mostly just brainless fun with lots of swears and sexual themes and gore.
Hey kids, I'm Jimmy the don't hold on to a large magnet while someone else uses a fan nearby Falcon.
What?
Here, watch! See?
Oh my god, they killed Kenny! You bastard!
Before watching it, my idea of how to differentiate real adult shows from those imposters is that they tackle some serious themes and life lessons and are more subtle with this stuff. Because ironically, the more you swear and say stuff referring to sex, the more childish it becomes. Bear with me here. Sex and swears are adult things. We can all agree on that. But we all were, are, or will be teens at some point in our life. And in that period of time, most of us usually want to be grown adults. So elders don't treat us like children, and the youngers treat us with respect. And what do we do when we do want to be like someone? We behave like them. So teens start to swear and talk dirty a lot more than they have reason to, and take it to extremum. So while no swearing or dirty talk is super childish, some of it is okay and get us in the mood, but when it's too much, it's just angsty teen talk. So when it comes to language, BoJack Horseman is super safe but believable. Rick and Morty is a little too much, but still good. South Park is way over the top. When it comes to themes and lessons, it's kinda weird, because there are 2 ways to analyze this. First is the message itself and how good it is. For example, lessons like everybody have bad days, nobody is perfect, while definitely important and everybody should know them, are taught to us at a very young age, and expecting adults to learn something from this is insulting. More complicated life lessons, like the fact we want to find excuses for our horrible actions, moral dilemmas, and how sitting on high horse might make you unlikable, are things we need to remember in life. Even if they are obvious to some of us, they are not insulting, and we usually learn this stuff when our life is messy, so reminders are always nice. Second way to analyze that kind of stuff is through execution. No matter how great message you want to portray, if it's too on the nose and lacking subtext, it comes off insulting, as if viewers can't put pieces together and need your help. Subtext is kinda complicated thing and I can't really explain it good, so I'll just play this clip from the closer look, because my understanding of this concept came mainly from this video.
Now, if you were to ask me, subtext is by far the most important quality that makes good dialogue. It's also by far the hardest part to master. Simply put, subtext is the difference between what a character says and what a character means. I've no doubt you've heard the phrase on the nose thrown around whenever we see a particularly clunky line of dialogue. When we as an audience use the phrase on the nose, what we're really trying to say is it's a moment that lacked the subtext it it needed. And let's come up with an example to explain this concept. So let's say you have Steve and Joe. Steve has just found out his father has died, so Joe says to Steve, "Are you alright?" To which Steve replies, "I'm fine." Now, of course, Steve isn't really fine. His dad just died. What he's really saying is, "I'm not alright. In fact, I feel terrible, but I don't want to talk about it." That right there, that is the subtext of that line when he says, "I'm fine." Now, this example really is the most generic example of subtext that you could find, but it's a good example to demonstrate the concept. So, simply put, subtext is the show don't tell rule applied to dialogue. As a definition, subtext is what the character is really saying, minus the words they speak. So when a character says exactly how they feel, so "I am really angry at you," or "I am really sad right now, I want a hug," said lines can feel jarring because they lack that subtext, or as the layman would say it, they feel on the nose.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Okay, so that's that. I recommend you watch closer look video after this one. Don't make a mistake, my video is more important. Returning to adult shows analysis, keep in mind that they don't need to have some life lessons and deeper meaning. They can just be brainless entertainment, and that's okay. However, it's good to have those kinds of things at least every few episodes. And of course, if you want to have some deeper meaning, make sure to make those lessons good by themselves and good in context of a show, and don't make it too on the nose. So, how do these shows handle this? I think it's no surprise that BoJack Horseman is expert in delivering hard-to-swallow life lessons in mostly subtle ways. Those times when it's not subtle at all, it still doesn't feel like creators helping us understand those concepts because it makes sense for characters. Rick and Morty has much more of those messages than it can seem at first glance, most of which are both good lessons and not too much on the nose. South Park is weak on both fields. Not only it has almost none of those lessons, which as I said before isn't something bad, but when they occur, they are not subtle at all and super basic. Now, after establishing that there is no such thing as definition of what makes adult animated shows, because South Park destroyed my entire theory, let's look at Helluva Boss. It's not subtle at all with language, and there's a lot of swears in series, though when it's in fast-paced back-to-back, it's censored, as if Vivzy didn't want kids' parents to hear what they watch. When it comes to those life lessons, Pilot has none, Episode 1 tells us seemingly nice people can be not so nice. Episode 2 has nice father-daughter conflict that teaches us about relationships, and Episode 3 is kinda the same in that regard. This stuff is not too basic, maybe not great, but not bad either, but its execution is very weak. The more we go into the show, the better it becomes, since I think Episode 1 has the worst portrayal of its message and Episode 3 has the best. So, while I can't prove that Helluva Boss is 100% aimed toward teens and the age restriction is legal cover, I think it at least knows that it has a lot of underage fans and somewhat addresses that. Maybe I should start from this tweet that sparked whole controversy. Bad writing. For example, let's take the scene towards the beginning. After a little conversation and shocked expression on Luna's face, we can piece together that this Veronica is someone important and famous, but we don't know any ins and outs yet. We know this character for about 2 minutes so far, and all we know is that she's a pop star and kind of important. We don't know how much she's praised and important, but we need to know this so the contrast between those two is established. So we get this line,
"Hello, it's Veronica Mayday."
to replace 1 or 2 more scenes of character presentation that will be a lot better. Like, I get it, it's the longest episode so far and you don't want to make it even longer, but come on, you can throw some stuff out. Or better, make every episode standardized times of about 20 minutes, it would also be amazing for episode 2. Just make her fan run over to take an autograph, that could be funny and definitely would portray Veronica as someone really famous, not someone who just got a little successful, because again, we don't know how much she's popular. Another kind of bad writing is in whole interaction between Luna and Vortex. The more and more time we spend with him as a character, the more we understand he's just a himbo, so eventual reveal that he actually has a girlfriend isn't that good. Also, I get that they want to make this edgy Luna we know so far more deep by making her socially awkward while talking to someone she likes, but it doesn't really work. I can't really explain this, but it's just too much, man. This amount of awkwardness don't at all fits previous Luna scenes and it breaks immersion. Not like there's a lot of it in a show like Helluva Boss, but still, it doesn't fit Luna to go from this super tough and rough and goth girl to being this awkward. Just give us one more scene where she shows her awkwardness, but not in context of Vortex or Verosika, but someone we know. That way it's more believable that she sometimes is awkward and it will be multiplied when talking to someone she likes. As it stands, it comes kinda out of nowhere. Jokes were lame. While writing this tweet, I really had one joke in mind, so let's start with the big boy, shall we? The fourth wall break is not funny or smart. Idea for it was great, and I think @FidelWillieSam24 explained it best when he said, an audience so degenerate even hell judges them. I didn't think of this in that way, but yeah, it makes sense. However, execution is total bullshit. Let's just talk about it, then look into people's souls for 2 seconds, and then proceed like nothing happened. I know it's subjective and all, but this is just the worst type of fourth wall break, at least for me. I think Sonic Boom, the show, is the best at breaking fourth wall. It makes references to real life, but in such a way it totally makes sense in the universe of show. If someone doesn't understand it, it's just filler dialogue. If someone does understand the joke, they start crying tears of joy. While I don't think many people would not understand the joke here, it still feels weird that right after this break we go back on track. Wouldn't it be better for Blitz to say, people up there are crazy, they get horny over some weird drawings, and then, when Luna tries to argue with that, she realizes she's not correct and stutters a bit. Yeah, I know, it wouldn't specifically shout out VivZipop R34, but this is just first draft for this joke and I'm not spending more time thinking of it, just do something else, I beg you. Okay, some less infuriating joke example before moving on.
Oh, this won't stand! Alright! That's it! If you're gonna be shitty to my employees, then I challenge you to a fucking challenge!
This is funny, seeing how fast with bitter responses Blitzo stutters. But just leave it here, please, let it be.
If you're gonna be shitty to my employees, then I challenge you to a fucking challenge! Fuck, I said that twice.
Okay, it's not funny anymore. If something is funny by being awkward, don't interrupt it with perfect dialogue, or in this case, comment about how stupid he is. Now I know it's a little hypocritical since 2 minutes ago I complained about Luna coming from this badass to awkward, but then you remember Blitz is already kinda awkward, we know him more, and most importantly this scene is just a stutter, a smidge of awkwardness. Damn, I need to stop saying awkward over and over again, because that makes it awkward. Way too horny. Okay, I got this feeling that it was too horny when I first watched it in January. It doesn't hold up in the slightest anymore. Well, that's a lie. It does hold up with that one scene, because it's just too much, man. Also, explaining as, well, they are succubuses, so that's what they do, doesn't work. Stop it.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
It was VivZ's decision to put them in and make them like that. It's not like I'm expecting dog not to bark when no one has control over it. But Spindlehorse has control over what their characters will do. But yeah, I didn't know what succubuses were before, I googled it, and it kinda makes sense on top of me not being this fragile when it comes to sex anymore due to a certain individual. Now, let's talk about the rest of the episode, because literally everything else is great, or at least good. The weakest part of episode, excluding those mishaps, gotta be the monster fish fight. It's way too short and music doesn't really work with this scene. But notice how I said it's the weakest, not the worst point, because it's not bad, it just could be better. While not many of them, other jokes are hysterical, animation is good, this montage is amazing, I can die for Drunk Moxie, and this emotional beat really slaps. It in fact is better than similar beat from episode 2. Yeah, I said it, this scene is better than entire Stolas Livia arc from episode 2. I say that because episode 2 has rushed conclusion that kinda lacks subtext, and this dialogue where Stolas tries to express his feelings is a little too long.
Need to understand, your mother and I I felt she's always been. I haven't been. We weren't in.
Like, we get it. Emotions are complicated and it's hard to tell someone how we really feel and what's deep in our soul. But can we move on already? Just remove 1 or 2 of those 6 attempts to express himself and it would be better. Anyway, does that mean episode 3 is better than episode 2? No, definitely not. Episode 2 has amazing little musical number, better jokes, more character development and not that many weak points. Overall, episode 3 is fun and much better than I thought of it during first watch. I think I thought of it so low because it was long after I watched either pilot or episode 1 and focused on those bad elements while ignoring those highs. If you ask me right now of my Hello Bubbles ranking, episode 2 is S tier, episode 3 is A tier, episode 1 and pilot are C tier, with pilot being a little better because its conclusion doesn't suck ass. So, that's my first real video in 10 months, since while I love making them, shitposts and montages aren't really content. I wanted to make part 3 in this video where I address Twitter comments, but it's just waste of time. Most of people were fine, just disagreed with me. And those who were kinda offensive, I can still give a pass because I sounded like a dick in those first few tweets. There's like only 2 people that got obsessed with this drama and to the point they hated me as a person and addressing that would accomplish nothing and it wouldn't even be entertaining. Anyway, comment down below what you think of this video and stuff, see ya later.